we are entering into what week is this? Fourth week of Let There Be Light, and we're going to wrap this puppy up in 2 more weeks. So next week I'm going to be talking about unseen light, which is a provocative thing to be thinking about. But the reality is that the light that you see right now is only part of the light. You just can only see part of the light. You only have so many cones behind your eyes to pick up the electromagnetic waves that are light. There's a whole lot of light going on that you don't see. And I think there are some things there we can play with when it comes to our spirit, our faith, who, what God is, and our understanding of things. So come next week for when light is darkness. And how do we understand that? How do we get our brains around that? Today, though, is going to be pretty frothy, not terribly deep, but no less challenging, because I've got some stuff for you to do today and to think about as you get out of here. But let's review. So the whole thing is predicated on this one verse, and I love the Message version on this. So this is what we got here today on the next slide, I think. So this comes from Matthew chapter 5. This is just 2 verses, and this is what we get from the Message version. Here's another way to put it. You're here to be light, bringing out the God colors in the world. God is not a secret to be kept. We're going public with this, as public as a city on a hill. If I make you light bearers, you don't think I'm going to hide you under a bucket, do you? I'm putting you on a light stand. And now that I put you there on a hilltop, on a light stand, shine. Keep open house. Be generous with your lives. By opening up to others, you'll prompt people to open up with God, this generous Father in heaven. And there's actually another verse that we're kind of building on today, and it comes from 1 Peter 3 on the next slide. And this is what that says. Now, who will want to harm you if you're eager to do good? But even if you suffer for doing what is right, God will reward you for it. So don't worry or be afraid of their threats. Instead, you must worship Christ as Lord of your life. And if someone asks you about your Christian hope, always be ready to explain it. By the way, that explanation of your Christian hope is very much rooted in the Lord is my shepherd. I have everything I need. That is the foundation of life. You get that straight. It doesn't matter what people say to cut you down. It's not personal. Your foundation is set and cannot be shaken. So that's the hope that you always have, and be ready to explain that. But do this in a gentle and respectful way. Keep your conscience clear. Then if people speak against you, they will be ashamed when they see what a good life you live because you belong to Christ. Remember, it's better to suffer for doing good, if that's what God wants, than to suffer from doing wrong. So the last couple of weeks, just to very quickly review, first of all, is realize that this is a great privilege that you're being given. This is not a burden for you to have to carry around. Like, oh, great, Pastor Pete told me I'm the light of the world. Who can handle that? You know, that's missing the point. The point is you get to do something. We all can make a big, long laundry list of all the things that are wrong in the world. We can talk about the dark places in the world. Here's the good news. You get to be a part of the solution on that. And a lot of things I'm going to tell you about today are not difficult. In fact, they're fun, and they pay off really good. It makes you feel better, makes the world a better place like that. So it's good news, and you really are potent people. You don't even know it. Not because you're so awesome, although you are, but the reason why is because the light that you're really showing on the world, the light of the world, isn't generated from you. You're simply reflecting it. However, as I mentioned the week after that, we diamonds, we immortal diamonds, diamonds in the rough perhaps, we are prone to get greasy. In fact, diamonds love grease. If there's grease to be had, diamonds are going to have it. And we don't even realize that through the course of our lives, we have gotten a little layer after layer on our beautiful immortal diamonds. So much so that we don't quite sparkle the way we once did. And like wedding rings that have been worn for 25 years compared to a bright, shiny, brand new engagement ring that sparkles for everybody to see a mile away, it's only when you see them compared to each other do you recognize the contrast. So the point of that is to be aware of the dirt and the grime that we accumulate that piles up on our reflective capacity. Or to put it another way, you are a solar panel. You are there to soak up all the love and light of God. But if there's too much dust on your panel, you're only going to get so much. So it's a call to be consistently aware and very honest with ourselves about what's really going on in our lives, that we would walk with humility and and not get so cocky, thinking we got it all together. Last week we talked about strange people who got to be light bearers, and I gave you some characters. Anybody get your brain twist a little bit by the likes of Tamar or Tamar or Moses or Rahab or Esther or who else I have? Isaiah and Lydia. Anybody actually do the homework? Raise your hands. Hey, two of you. Fantastic. A+ for you. So anyway, those people all had backstories. And this one I found out kind of messed with you a little bit because last week I told you that backstory is very important. Sometimes we want to run away from our backstory as fast as possible because they're ugly. And sometimes they're very painful times in our life. Sometimes it's things that we contributed to the ugliness. And we don't want to be associated with it anymore. We want to be free of it. And we tell ourselves, well, God forgave me of it, so let me just move on. But the reality is that there's still work to do there. And some of the most deepest, profound, painful experiences of our life, we tend to look at those as things to run away from. But actually, probably, most likely, at least for me, these are things that God will continue to redeem and work on like the rest of our lives. Because I've learned that a lot of the nonsense that I pulled off in my younger years and even now is strangely rooted in stuff that goes way, way back. And it's like God is needing to heal again and again, not because God doesn't have the capacity to take care of it, but because I can only be healed so much at a time. And if I get through a certain amount of my backstory and pain, I think, all right, I'm done, I'm arrived. I never have to think about that again. And then I mature, or I go through life where I find out that I'm in my mid-40s and not 23 or whatever. And I see things different. And so that stuff, the way it formed me, comes out again. And rather than saying, oh no, God, I thought you took care of this, it's more like God is saying, hey, here's a new opportunity to redeem this thing just a little bit deeper so that you might be more free, more whole. This backstory stuff is so important. I'm actually going to devote a series to it starting in September called Everything Belongs, based on the book by that name by a guy named Richard Rohr, who's an incredible thinker. So if you've ever had trouble shedding or shaking loose the stuff of your past, or you want to know how to deal with it when you have a past to talk about, then come to that series. And if you got friends that are broken and stuck and don't know how to integrate horrible things from their past into their present and into their future in a redemptive way that heals and restores, tell them about what's coming up, because it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be profoundly deep. Not because I'm so awesome, although we can all agree on that, but because Richard Rohr has some great insights about the grace of God and how that all works. That brings us to today, about what this thing means to be light bearers. And so let me take you on the next screen, and this is where we're going today. We're going to talk about mirror pieces. We're going to talk about your on your way to, free throws, duck throttles, and better place. Mirror pieces. Got this from newly arrived pastoral folk from Oregon. We're in our neck of the woods now, which is awesome. So here's the story. The guy who wrote Everything I Learned, or Everything I Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. What's that guy's name again? That guy, yes. But you've heard of the book. Well, he tells a story that when he was in seminary, training to be a pastor, that his professor of theology, whatever it was, at the end of class, he asked a question which professors always do. Are there any questions? And most of the time in college classes and in master's level and doctor, whatever, the same response happens. Crickets. And nobody wants to stay any longer. Even if they have a question, they're going to email it or whatever. But this guy, probably being a little bit of a smart aleck, raises his hand and says, I got a question. Professor, what is the meaning of life? Think it'd be this quick, ha ha ha, very funny, see you next week, you're now going to get a D in the class kind of thing. Go on. That's not what happened. The professor looked at him and said, do you really want to know the answer? And the student was kind of taken aback by it, but he's like, well, okay, yes. So the professor pulls out of his pocket a little piece of mirror, about the size of a quarter. He says, when I was in Europe, right after World War II, my family was trying to rebuild our lives, and I was in the street where a German motorcycle wrecked. And the mirror broke out in this motorcycle. This is the only piece that I still have today that I carry with me wherever I went. And first, when I had it as a little kid, I had a lot of fun with it because I could redirect sunlight into all kinds of places that normally would never see sunlight. Dark, shadowy places under a log, a little hole in the ground. Places that never knew sunlight, now they got sunlight. And as I grew older, I realized that that really is a paradigm, a metaphor, a way to think about our lives. That we are all mirrors. And you and I, as light bearers, we get to reflect that light into places that need it most. Into dark places where people need some sunshine. Into cold places where people need to be warmed up by that light. Into shadowy places where justice needs to come. I thought that's a really great way to think about this. So thank you very much, Jenny. And Art, I guess you get some credit too, but mostly Jenny. All right. So that's what we're building on today. And I just want to give you some practical things to think about, what this might play out in your life on a daily basis. So I know you're going to be thinking this after I tell you a few stories, so I just want to get this out of the way. So everybody just repeat after me. Pete, you are awesome. Thanks, guys. That's awesome. So I say this tongue-in-cheek because I'm not awesome. I'm just a normal guy. But let me tell you a story about things that happen on my way to other things. So what happens when I'm at the office, I'll take a lunch break, and I've usually been sitting at my computer talking to people, leading the study or whatever, and I need to stretch my legs. And so I'll buzz by Dar's office, and she knows exactly what I'm doing and about how long it's going to take. Say, I got to go take a walk. And I tell the front office, I'll be back in a little bit. And it usually takes me about 30 minutes to do my little routine. And I zip over here across the bridge and go through the neighborhood. I was so interested in sharing this with you. Do you remember this 2 years ago? I actually made a video of that walk, nature walk. Yeah, you can still find that if you really want. So anyway, I was on that walk, and I was on my way back. It's about a 2-mile loop, and I'm on my way back, and right in front of this house that's getting some remodeling done, in their kitchen, obviously, are these two older guys, meaning older than me, and they have a pickup truck and like a haul trailer kind of a thing, and they're trying to load these kitchen cabinets, like the base units, with the granite still on them, and literally the kitchen sink still on it. And they are looking at this thing and struggling with this thing, and at first I just kind of cruise on by because it's kind of hot, and they seem to have it under control. You know, guys, we're tough and we have it under control. But I got about 2 steps later and I just stopped, and I looked back and said, guys, need any help with that? Now, I don't have a good back, right? But I thought, well, let's give it a shot. So, do you need any help with that? And they're like, that would be awesome. So we kind of talked about the best strategy to get this thing on, and we determined it needed to be this way, and they just needed one extra set of hands to do this. And so together, I didn't really have to hurt my back much at all. We got the thing on there and up, and both pieces that they needed to get on, which there's no way they were going to get on by the two of them, we got on their trailer literally within 5 minutes. One of the guys was so grateful, probably the guy who was taking him to his house, was so grateful, literally. He jumped out of the trailer. I'm saying goodbye to him, shaking their hands. And he says, dude, I just have to give you a hug. That's light. That's light. Nothing fancy, nothing hard, nothing profound. It's why you're on the way to doing something. You see something that needs to happen that's going to brighten up somebody's life, so you do it. Just Wednesday. Right after Bible study, I had to meet a friend, a colleague, actually Tim Brown, who's our executive minister. I met him for coffee over at Starbucks near the Target, Imola, and Saskville area. And so I'm on my way over there, and I'm riding along, and there's this pickup truck full of stuff. Looks like kind of they're moving or garage sale stuff or whatever. And all the stuff is tied down, except for on the tailgate, there's this toolbox, which is not tied down at all. It's a big thing, about the size of that black component box over there. And it's not at all strapped down, and it had a lid on it that was flapping up and down. And we're headed toward the Maxwell Bridge, and I'm thinking, that's not good. Luckily, I wasn't right behind you, so I felt good about that. But some guy was. And it didn't seem to be jostling, but I'm like, man, if this guy's going to get on the real road, he's going to lose it. Who knows what that could cause. So we're cruising up the bridge. I was a few cars behind, but because of my mad driving skills, I got right next to him. And I whistled so he'd get so I got his attention. And all I had to say is you're low. And immediately he knew there was a problem. So you know what he did? He flipped me off. He called me a terrible word and sped off. No, he didn't do that at all. He just simply looked at me, nodded, turned on his blinker, and by the time he was off the Maxwell Bridge, he was on the side. And you know what he did then? Well, he probably secured his toolbox. No big deal. You would do it. That's light. This is not rocket science. Do the right thing. Do the nice thing. Because it needs to be done. So you can do that, right? On your way to something, just helping people out. You can do that. I told you I was awesome. But you are too. It's not hard to do. So this week, on your way to something, when you see an opportunity, have the sensitivity to say, hey, you know what? It would make a difference if I could just do this. Just do it. Just do the right thing. Ladies, you're starting school this week. Where all kinds of high school tensions around, going to be telling you to do this, that, and the other thing, and there's going to be pressure, and this goes not just high school, but everybody. There's going to be pressure to not do the right thing because it's not cool, or they're the wrong person, whatever. Nonsense. You're a child of God. You're a light bearer. Do the right thing, even if it's just on your way to something else. Which, of course, brings us to free throws. Did you know that one of the greatest basketball games in history happened 8 years before I was born? Who knew that basketball even existed before I was born? That is true. In 1962, on March 2nd, I believe, one of the greatest games was ever played. And the star of that game was Wilt Chamberlain. The reason why that game was so significant is because Wilt Chamberlain made a record that will probably never be broken. He scored over 100 points in one game. What was it? 105. Thank you, Fred. Did you see the game? All right. That's pretty awesome. One of the other remarkable things about that game is how many free throws Wilt Chamberlain made. Wilt Chamberlain was a big guy. You know who another big guy is, just for point of reference? Shaquille O'Neal. You ever watch Shaquille O'Neal try to make a free throw? It's comical. I mean, just throw the brick up there, right? I mean, there's no way that ball is ever going in. And that's exactly what it was like for Wilt Chamberlain. The guy was a terrible free throw shooter. He was hitting somewhere like 25%, if that. But then a friend of his, who also was an NBA player, came alongside him, and he was the record holder at that time for free throw shooting. And he said, man, I can teach you a way to shoot that will radically improve your percentage. Are you up for it? And Wilt Chamberlain said yes. Now, before I tell you what happened and how he did it, you need to know this, that he went from being a guy who shot somewhere around 30%, maybe a little bit more than that. On that game where he scored 105 points, he scored 28 out of, I think, 32 free throw shots. 28 for 32. That's remarkable. And for a short period of time, he was hitting 90% or 87% of his free throw shots. That's ridiculous. Steph Curry is one of the record holders right now. He's right at 90%. So that he's brilliant, and you know, he's not a guy that's 7 foot tall or whatever and 500 pounds and, you know, isn't this huge, you know, block built kind of guy, right? So you don't expect it from a Wilt Chamberlain kind of guy. What was the technique? Throw the ball like this. Rick Barry would explain that the reason why his technique was so effective is because this is not natural. You've got all kinds of things that are going to go wrong if you shoot like this. Dylan, are you paying attention? I just want to make sure you're paying attention because you're a basketball stud, and this could be the difference maker for you. So, he's a great basketball player. So this is a problem because this is unnatural. There's too many things to cause a problem. But if you're doing this, by the way, when you were a kid, what did you call this kind of a shot? A granny shot, right? Anybody watch Happy Days? This is how they always did it, right, on Happy Days. So you shoot it like this. And why is this a better way? For a couple reasons. One, you have a whole lot less to go wrong. This is a more or less natural position. And when the ball actually makes it up there versus Shaq's throws, which are hitting like a rock and bouncing right back, this is a real nice, gentle toss. And even if it comes close to the basket, it's probably going to make its way in because it's so soft. When my mom was in college, she will let you know, she was the female athlete of the year at Sioux Falls College. Well, that was back in the day. Well, anyway, but she would throw free throws like this. And when my brother and I would play her and horse, she would always go back to the line and do this and usually clean our clocks. Because he learned the technique, that significantly helped him reach 105 points that night. Unfortunately, he didn't keep that technique for very long. And within short order, he went back to this. And you know why he went back to this? Because this isn't cool. Isn't that something? I mean, can you imagine how many more points he would have won? How many more games he would have won? How high his average would have been if he would have just gotten over the need to be cool. My point here is there's sometimes you can say things to people that are going to be extraordinarily helpful in the moment, and they just might take you up on it, at least for a while, and they're going to pay off. It doesn't, especially when it's welcome news, that's shining light on something. And the reality is you all have life experience. You've been through stuff. You are all an expert on being you, and you're pretty darn good at things you've been through because you've learned a lot about those things. That's stuff to share. So your challenge this week, not only when you're on the way to do something, see somebody who needs a quick thing of help to do that, but if you have somebody, a coworker, a friend, or whatever, and you know they're struggling with something you know about, well, why not just say, hey, man, I've kind of been through this, I know some stuff, and mind if I tell you what I did? Because maybe it's something you could use. You know when it's done like that, most of the time people want to hear it. When you come off like, oh, I'm an expert, then not so much, but you're light of the world, and remember the whole foundation of being really good reflectors of the light of God is to walk in humility. So when you're doing that and you see somebody that you care about, coworker, friend, family, then you know there's something they need to hear. Man, just offer it in humility. And I bet you're going to shine a lot of light on somebody and save them a lot of stuff. Just a quick little note on us. So Noah, he was frying up some eggs the other day, and he's kind of new to the whole cooking world. And as soon as the scrambled eggs were on his plate, he took the hot pan and he put it in the sink and put some cold water on it. Well, you know what happens, right? That was the first time Noah had ever done that. So he didn't know what happened. Well, nothing happened, so that was good news, except for a nice little show in the sink. Well, the next day I came back to Noah and I said, hey, man, I didn't want to think you were reprimanded or anything. And it's the first time you didn't know any different. We never taught you any better. So now I want to tell you, because this could literally save you some skin and hundreds of dollars in kitchen repair work to know about hot pans and countertops and that kind of thing. And I explained it to him. And one of the ways I said is, you know, what if you're at like your girlfriend's parents' house and you want to impress them and you're going to cook them this nice dinner, the one thing you know how to make, eggs. And anyway, and so you make it and you bring out this egg casserole from the oven. It's 375 degrees or whatever. And because in our household, our countertops can handle that, they can go up to like 600, but they have Formica. They haven't heard about the new stuff yet. And so you put that 375 degree beauty right on their Formica and it ruins their countertop. That's not a good day. And so it saves us time, all kinds of things. You know how Noah took it? He said, thanks, Dad. Because I wasn't trying to be a jerk. I wasn't trying to reprimand him. I've never told him any of this stuff. And he needs to know this stuff. I think that works a lot for other people. Stuck throttles. Sometimes people can't believe what you're telling them, but it might just save their life. I drive a Toyota Prius V. And every time I take it in for service, it's a standard part of their form. They have a checkbox, which they have to check at every service. You know what it is? They have to make sure that the floor mat is in no way obstructing the gas pedal. They check it and they recheck it. You remember why? Because about 8-9 years ago, there was the stuck pedal issue, and it seemed to really be happening a lot with Toyotas. Billions of dollars have been spent in class action lawsuits and corrective measures by Toyota to make sure this happens. Here's an interesting fact. So recent studies have been done to go back and check the veracity of the claims that it was either a software issue or a mechanical problem or a floor mat that caused the accidents to happen. You know what they discovered? Very likely that was not the cause of the accident at all. You know what probably was? Human error. Most of the time when this happened, people were in cars that they were unfamiliar with. Most of them happened in parking lots, with parking lot attendants going to park somebody's car. And lo and behold, I swear, that gas pedal just got stuck. No, it wasn't. They just never driven that car before. And one that was a tragic case of, it was a highway patrolman who, his family was killed as their car was careening down the highway in Southern California. The car was new to him. He just picked it up that day. He wasn't familiar with the car, even a very practiced driver like a highway patrolman. You know what they discovered and why they think that it's not a software or mechanical issue or a car floor mat issue? You know why? It's because they did tests with like Toyota Camrys, and they took it out to like a test track where they've got all kinds of room to do this. And with multiple cars of very similar caliber that were wrecked, they would put the pedal to the metal, get it up to about 80 or 100 miles an hour, and while they still have the gas pedal to the metal, they would slam on the brakes. And you know what happened when they slammed on the brakes? Car stopped. That's right. And so they thought, well, maybe that's okay for ordinary cars like Toyota Priuses and Camrys, but would it work for a super jacked up car? And so they got like a 650 horsepower, totally decked out Mustang. Totally tricked out. They got that baby out on the racetrack. Took it over 100 miles an hour, pedal to the metal, 650 horsepower. And then they immediately slammed on the brakes. Do you know what happened? It stopped. It stopped. The conclusion is most of the accidents happened because people in their panic thought that they were slamming on the brakes, when in fact, they were slamming on the gas pedal themselves. So a little piece of information of light that I'm doing for you right now is if you are ever in a rental car or a new car that you don't have and you are sure that the gas pedal is stuck, take your foot off whatever pedal you think you're on, look down for half a second, and slam on the gas pedal because you will stop. The brake pedal. Just seeing if you're paying attention. You know, there's stuff like that in people's lives where they're careening down the roads at way too fast a pace. And you know it. And they know it. And they're freaking out because they don't know how to stop it. And they might even hear you say, take your foot off the pedal and switch pedals. They might not listen to you, but at least you've done your part in saying, I see you going very fast down a road you do not want to be on. And you're just about out of control. I see that. I hear the panic in your voice. And I'm telling you, take your foot off the pedal. Let me help you take the foot off the pedal and put it on the right pedal. Because their life is at stake. And it may literally be a call about some person on a car, but it may be somebody's life that they've made a decision after decision and the pedal is still to the floor. And it's the wrong pedal. And out of your love for them, inform them. Even if they choose to keep the pedal to the metal, the wrong one, at least inform them out of love and grace and care that they would know that there's another pedal bush. Well, this gets us to a better place. You can do all these things, by the way. You can help people along your way to this. Now, I forgot one. While I was waiting for Tim at Starbucks, there was a gal that was really down on her luck, just asking for help right outside of Panda Express. And you know what I just happened to have in my car? A Go Be Jesus bag, which we make just for those. And so I grabbed the Go Be Jesus bag and I handed it to her. And guess what she did? She smiled. And she was so grateful because she didn't have any money. And she didn't have any food. And now she did. That's easy stuff, folks. That is fun. That's not anything I'm doing. It's easy. Well, think about the free throws. Think about stuck throttles. And now I want you to think about Better Place. There's a song written and composed, and well, I guess she wrote it. I think she wrote it. Performed by a gal named Rachel Platten. And this song is somewhat familiar on the airwaves right now, I think. When she did this song, I think I gave you, I can't remember which, I gave you the lyric version, so I got to tell you the setup here. Is she had people come into a living room type setting, and there was a sign on a coffee table that just says, play the song. And over on this other little end table, they had a CD player or something with the big play button, real obvious. So people would sit across from each other in this living room type setting in studio and hit play and just look at each other. And the song that they heard is the one you're about to hear. And you're going to see two things on the top and the bottom of the screen while you're seeing these lyrics flash across this thing. Two questions for you. Who has been this type of person for you that you're going to hear about? Who can you be this for somebody else? And then I have a little challenge for you after the video. So let's hit the video, and I'll be right back up here with you. I haven't taught my computer to do itself. Okay, so you're going to have to trust me that it was really awesome. You know, the gist of the song was this, and I have a link for it in my blog. How many of you heard the song, by the way, Better Place? The gist of the song is this. The chorus ends with, the world is a better place because of you. It's a better place because you were part of my life. And so I know that in my own life, I don't say it enough to the people who have been light and life to me. So my challenge for you this week, the obvious challenge is, how can you be that better place type person? How can you be a person of influence so that the people around you would maybe be able to say someday, it's a better place because you belong in this world, in my story. Do you ever think about it that way? Start thinking about it that way. If there are tense areas at work or in your family, are you a contributor to the problem? Are you part of the healing? If there's a mess in a Home Depot checkout line and people are going nuts, are you getting angry with the rest of the world, or are you part of the solution? In our very docile, peaceful political season, are you fanning the flame? Or are you a voice of let's listen? Or which side are you with? Because it's not about Republican or Democrat. Our home with Jesus is our political conversation a better place because you were in it. And then finally, my challenge for you. Last week we gave you 2 flashlights. One was for you to keep. The other's for you to give to somebody. My challenge for you is to take that extra one. If you didn't get one, I think we have a few over here on your way out. Take one of those flashlights, and somebody that's done something for you to make your world a better place, I just want you to give them the flashlight and say, okay, so I was at church this week and my pastor said we should give this to somebody who's made a difference in our lives, and so I thought I'd give it to you. You could probably do a little better than that. Let me tell you what's going to happen when you do that. When you go out of your way, and it could be somebody, maybe it's somebody you haven't recognized. Maybe there's the easy go-tos, like Noah and Lake, and I know you're going to want to give a flashlight to me, but don't this time. But think of somebody else in your life that maybe doesn't get so much light. And you come along to them and just say, you know what? I don't say it enough to the people that have made a difference in my life. And we're in this thing about light, and people have been light in our lives, and you've been a light to me in this way. You give one of those super cool flashlights to somebody, they're going to thank you anyway. But what's we're really going to be grateful for is that you went out of your way to say thanks, to recognize them. That's a beautiful thing. You will change their day, maybe their week, maybe their life, just by being light in that way. That's your challenge. Let's pray together. So God, as we close up this service in this light series, None of the stuff is that hard to do. Stuff we forget to do because we get a little grimy with life, or we get too dusty, or we just forget, or we get too busy. But to be light in the world is not that complicated. It's not that hard, but what a difference it makes. So I pray, God, that your Spirit prompt us, mess with us, hit us over the head this week, maybe even today, even as we're leaving the parking lot, that if we have an opportunity to be light, to shine your light, reflect your light, that we would do it. In simple, easy ways like opening doors and helping somebody with a simple task, to telling people tips that will actually make a difference in their life, to advising them in things that will actually save their life, to even telling people that they have been light to us, which is itself an act of bringing light to the world. May it happen. May we have the insight to do it. May you get the glory because of it. May the world become brighter because we chose to be the light of the world. I ask this in Jesus' name.